We welcome you to NA Contenders Trials here on Elo Hell. It is LoBosco alongside of me. I've got the one and only thibbledork getting ready for our match today. It is going to be Karasuno versus Revival. Thibble, two teams with a lot of well-known players on.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, both of these teams really are bringing the star power to bear, as it were. Definitely a lot of names that you could see in Overwatch League or making it up into Contenders, certainly as we make our way through trials here. I'm really excited to see what these two teams can do. The current records might tell a certain story, but I think no matter what, we're going to get a great match.
Yeah, speaking of those records, Karasuno is 2-0 and 1-1 for Revival. They're currently sitting in fourth. The top two teams make it into contenders. Everybody else is going to go to trials. So this is a pivotal match for both of these teams. For Karasuno, obviously getting 3-0 is a huge leg up on everybody else. Almost assures that you're going to get into contenders. And when you look at the roster that they have too, I mean, just a DPS player like Asking is something that is just a huge, as far as players that you talk about star power, that's the one that comes to mind.
Definitely. He is the biggest name, I would say, out of these 12 players that we're going to see. He has certainly been playing at a high enough level for quite some time. It's really just a matter now of when is someone going to give him a contract. So getting to see him here at this level is definitely a treat, I think, that a lot of people will look back on if he makes it up into the big leagues and go, oh, man, I saw him when he was playing back in trials, and he was good then. So excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, a very good DPS player. I mean, no lack of good DPS players on either side. You've got Asking and Far teaming up, and then Aspire and Wub as well. So some very good DPS lines. But overall, I mean, Revival, not a slouch of a team as at all either. They were contenders team last season. So a very good team that we have here too.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they play out these maps. There's certainly a meta that's being established, but at the same time, there's opportunities for fringe picks, opportunities for ways to mix it up and kind of throw people off balance. So I'm very curious to see as we step into the game here on Oasis, how those fringe picks might come into play, or if we're just going to see a mirror and see who does it better.
Well, Oasis is a good map to maybe have some of those fringe pips because, well, one, control, but two, Thibble, you look at just the way that the Oasis maps are, the different points, you can kind of have a lot of different styles. Like we're going to university here first, very enclosed areas, so we can see a variety of things here for our first map.
Certainly. I mean, historically, this is the stage where we see some Pharah, maybe some Doomfist. Not that we're seeing those commonly right now. I imagine we're going to see a lot of Genji and Ashe. But even looking out at the picks now, not that this means much given control, but seeing something like a Soldier or a Mei is certainly not out of the question. The Symmetras here are just for the teleport. So we'll see what they finalize on before we really talk about that. I'm curious, though, to see how each of these teams decides to take space and establish themselves on the point as we get into this first fight.
Yeah, it looks like at least for the tanks, we're going to get an Orisa on either side. And
ooh, a wrinkle, though. A couple here form. A Reinhardt over for Revival, and then a Sigma, Finzi on the Sigma here. Let's see. We'll see if this causes any differences in aggression before we get started on this match. Understood. All right. Looks like I've lost Lobo. Bless his heart. As predicted, though, the space created by the Reinhardt stepping up has really allowed Revival to just set themselves up on the point.
Yeah, they're already set up for the side of Revival, and now you have Karasuno looking to come in. Dragon Blade from Far, the first thing that's going to happen. Not getting any value from it yet, but now finally does. And now you have the Infinite Flux over the top to help finish things off. It will be Karasuno at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, nice quick flip here. Some quick ultimate generation, especially coming out from Finzi and Far to get the Dragon Blade and the Flux online like that. Aspen did have the sound barrier, to her credit, and while that countered out a lot of the damage from the Gravitic Flux, ultimately that ultimate allowed Karasuno to move up onto the point, and by then the damage was too great. So a quick flip here, they've got a couple ults coming online as Revival looks to recontest coming along this left side.
Revival now put up that main wall too to try and block players off, but Asking already getting the Lucio out, so this is looking super good for Karasuno. They use their ultimates well. They don't even care about the fact that Wub had Blizzard, and they are well in control here.
I understand what Revival's trying to do with the Mei Reaper comp here in terms of just running on the point, taking advantage of the Lucio and the Reinhardt, the sheer brawliness of that composition. but ultimately it's really easy for Karasuno to disengage and utilize their longer range with the Genji and the Ashe to just poke them out. The shields are hardly lasting into these fights.
Right, if you're going to rush, you've got to make sure you collapse and you find some targets like Gustav here at the start. So something good starting off for Revival here. They have control of the high ground too. Amplification Matrix they can put down at no time, but Love is going to go down, so this evens things up 5v5. Supercharger is out, but Far with the blade, and the follow-up damage is too much. Fire will get the Orisa and JKRU, but it's just too little too late. And Karasuno now up to 73%.
Yeah, I mean, a good initial collapse to get Gustav on that pick, but ultimately, Wub getting caught out there really spells disaster for a composition that requires all of its pieces to really be working. A little ult commitment there coming in from Karasuno with the Supercharger and the Blade, just to make sure they could clean up again despite being a man down early. But now the Revival are coming in with a Shatter, Supercharger, and Blossom. You could get some interesting combos going there, but they're going to have to see if they can win this fight without using absolutely everything they have.
It's going to be really important. They've got to go right into a bomb. Hulk Gravitic Flux do so much. The Gravitic Flux gets stopped though, so no damage from that, but they can't deal with the bomb is the only problem. And Far is just dashing through everyone. Karasuno will take our first point here of University on Oasis.
I mean, you can't, that's like a perfect microcosm of the differences in this composition, right? Revival really wants to just speed forward, get in your face, do everything they can. Here's a halt. Here's a Gravitic Flux. You're not going anywhere.
Here's a Bob.
Right, yeah, and here's Bob. Exactly. Anything you could think of to stop these guys. And yeah, Niche got a lucky pin there at the end, but ultimately that pick is not enough. When Far's coming around and just cleaning up as you're floating in the air, landing back down, you know, it's way too much front-loaded damage at range from Karasuno to really be countered by a speedy brawl-style composition from Revival. Now, though, we're getting some mix-ups. We're kind of seeing, I was going to say almost a mirror, but I'm very curious to see the Soldier Pharah, if that's a real thing.
Well, yeah, they're going dive. So Karasuno did put that dive is their favorite composition. This is a point where you can make it work for Garden. So this is something that they are going to show us here at the beginning. Far playing the Pharah, asking on the Soldier 76 to get that high ground control. Love, in the meantime, has been the one to go over to that Genji, so you do have that style of composition. And Revival right now, Thibble, it looks like they're maybe changing what they want to do. They've got players going back into spawn.
Yeah, ooh, a Tracer McCree swap. I actually like that quite a bit with the Ana as well. I think they understand that they're going to be at a fundamental disadvantage with the composition that they had, and that they would rather make those switches early than try and build ults, and, you know, they're already in danger of losing the match. So, good eye on them to swap quickly, and it's already bearing fruit.
Yeah, Aspire already finding his way into the kill feed on the Tracer, building up to that pulse bomb quickly, already halfway there, and just made the switch. They do get the res, though, onto JKR, so they've got that to full strength. And now the barrage coming out will allow JKR to come through with the Tesla cannon onto two players, and they are going to be able to hold this point for Karasuno. So the swaps, they work at the start, but they can't finish it off.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the crux of Revival's composition is that they have to give a lot of resources to their DPS to make sure that the dive tanks from Karasuno don't get too aggressive and that they can keep Far's Pharah in check. Wub really needs to make sure he's hitting shots and not getting caught out early, because if they lose him, there's almost no chance that they win the fight, even as they try and move up on the board.
And Far right now, at least playing behind all the shielding that his team provides him, but diving right in is JKR, not even feeling any worry at all whatsoever, but Provide will be the first one to fall. Far will end up taking himself out. So this is a fight where Revival can get themselves back into this and just need to clear off these last few stragglers, but they are in control.
Revival's composition is definitively focused around peel. You saw Jkaru jump in on the Winston, and immediately there's, you know, tons of cleave healing and immortality field, all the CC you could want from it. Even with the primal, he was not getting a lot of value. Now they're already using ults and turning this around, but at the same time, Karasuno is still racking up percentage points.
Yeah, they are in control of the area. They just haven't gotten the point. They finally do now, Thibble, and now they can start to settle in. Their composition can do much better when they can just sit on the point.
Agreed, and Far notices that immediately, and he's probably going to be swapping off the Pharah here. Yep, to the Genji. We're getting a McCree, Brig. Oh wow, no, we're doing some full swaps here. Finzy's staying on because he has the self-destruct. He can maybe get something off of that, but I imagine he swaps to the Sigma after the fact. The Genji and the Ashe are going to have their hands full with a Tracer running around on him, and with the Flashbang coming out for Wub. Look for him to keep far in check as this Diva Bomb comes in.
Self-destruct won't even find anything. Good immortality field to keep everybody alive who was on the high ground. They're going to concede some of that space, but move forward instead from the high ground to the low ground to keep themselves in front. Wub has that Deadeye for the next fight. The Amplification Matrix forcing players back, and Provide goes down. So now Karasuno is going to have to try and back away and not feed any more ult charge over to Revival.
I mean, a great disengage from Karasuno there to deny value from the Amp Matrix, but ultimately Provide was just a couple steps ahead and got caught out early by Salty. At that point, you're missing a ton of your heals, and that fight was pretty inevitable. Finzi actually staying on the Diva here. I like it. It's one of his signature heroes. It's certainly a comfort pick for him. And with the Tracer and the McCree, you can deny a lot of value on those initial dives from the Tracer. Or eat a flashbang and keep far in the fight a little longer. Let's see how this fight goes.
Yeah, a lot of buffs did come through to the Diva, but when you're slept, it doesn't matter what buffs happen to your character. And now you have Aspire on the flank, taking Gustav out. Don't care about it being a Brigitte with a shield up when you're that low of HP. Throws the Pulse Bomb out, misses, but Bob now trying to be the great equalizer for Karasuno, and Fitzy back into the fight is able to get Wub War with the blade, swiping through one. Asking's Bob helping finish off another, and Revival is starting to lose out on heroes. Not much left to try and hold this point. They've got to win this fight here, but Jaikaru is going to throw down the ultimate, and now they don't even have a chance to come back on. They've got to hurry up and get back.
It'll be a last-minute touch, if anything. Let's see if he can get it.
They do manage to at least get the touch, but Liar immediately getting Provide out of the fight, though, so there's maybe an opening, but Aspen will fall as well. So both that pieced out. It's all about ultimates from here on and what you can do with what's left, and it's all about Far on this Tracer right now, and asking on the Ashe. It's too much to handle for Revival, and Karasuno is going to be able to take map number 1 and have a 1-0 lead.
Victory.
Looked like Karasuno was just a little, like a step or two ahead there in terms of deciding their compositions and making adaptations on the fly. I was a little surprised by the Finzi pick ultimately onto Diva, but as I predicted, if I may be smug for just a moment, it denied quite a bit of value from the McCree later on in that fight.
Mm-hmm.
There were several moments where Wub would try and walk down into the hallway on either side of the point, maybe throw in a flashbang and get a quick pick or a fan the hammer onto the tanks or something. But with a defense matrix covering the entire hallway, what are you going to do? So ultimately, it looked like Karasuno in general were just making a couple more adaptations, staying a little bit ahead. But now as we look into map 2, we'll see who can adapt or out-adapt the adapters.
To that point, too, it felt like Karasuno kind of dictated things, too. Like they were the team that played a different composition that forced Revival to switch. And then they switched themselves again to try and stay in front of whatever composition that Revival was running. The biggest thing here is we haven't seen what we probably expect in the next few maps, which is the Genji the Genji Ashe versus Genji Ashe poke compositions. Like that's probably what we get with Route 66, right?
I figure so. It's definitely a map that favors longer sightlines and more medium range engagements for a Genji as well. But Tracer historically has done okay here. McCree as well. I mean, it's his home turf after all. So this is still a map where we could see those wrinkles in the DPS line keeping us from a mirror, but they could just as well decide that that's the composition that's best for this map. We actually don't see a lot of this in the Overwatch League, so I'm curious to see how it looks down here in Trials.
Right. By the way, Asking's McCree, I will never complain about seeing that.
Oh no, never. I mean, his Ashe is a treat in and of itself, but McCree is really where he's baked his bread. So I'm very curious to see if he decides that that's going to be the player, if they kind of stick with what we're seeing here on screen.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right? Yeah.
This is like the handshake. Like, yeah, we know we're not gonna meme. We know we're all gonna run the same thing.
Yeah, we're definitely in that phase that we really haven't seen since GOATs. Where like this is the comp that's being run 90% of the time. which is still a much lower percentage than we had in GOATs.
Yeah.
But really, since then, it's been all hero pools, and there's never been enough time to settle on a meta and have it be the definitive composition that you probably want to be running in the vast majority of circumstances. With compositions like that, though, now that this is big air quotes here, figured out, we're really seeing the difference come down to the management of ultimates and cooldowns, coordinating engagements and disengagements and things like that. So we'll have to see, now that we're in this mirror, which of those teams can kind of stack up and communicate that much better to get that little edge.
Halt with a Genji is such a huge thing that you see teams do too. And well, asking, just finding a pick onto Wub at the beginning already spells disaster for Revival. They're backing up because they have to concede space. They lost out on one of their key players in that Genji, and asking is now on one of those high ground areas where you want your Ashe to be.
I mean, and great disengage from Revival at least. They only lose the one, and they're getting time for him to come back. Aspire goes down. I speak way too soon. Sorry, I forgot I had that power. And now we're looking at a bit of a messy fight.
Oh, the caster curse. It never fails to be a thing. And what doesn't fail here is Karasuno, because they are well in control of the cart. And they fly through this first part of the map.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was saying good things about the disengage from Revival and totally cursing them in the process, but at the same time, Karasuno just did a really good job of taking the space that they were given. They knew very well that they could move up almost completely unimpeded because the man down situation. Then Aspire goes down off the side and that fight is over. You know, they understand that they have the point, and Revival understands that they have it too. Now they have to see if they can try and set up again on this high ground, even as Karasuno moves up and takes so much space as the cart gets moving again.
Credit to Revival, they have been able to build up to some ultimates. Aspire at the beginning is able to get that kill with the dynamite onto Far. So Revival here with a pretty good start. They just have to continue to finish it off and get control of this cart and stop its progress. They get hit with a huge dynamite though, but Finzi was a little bit too aggressive. Asking will be able to take out Liar, but this is still Revival's fight to lose. They have the advantage.
Such a back and forth fight, and good on Karasuno to back up into that mega health pack room to deny value from the amplification matrix. And now moving up, it looks like they'll be able to establish control here in streets.
They try to. Gustav gets taken out thanks to the help of the Gravitic Flux, and Jikaru is going to go down too. So you finally have this control. The cart is stopped. Not the worst place if you're the attacking team, but this is still Revival at least stabilizing.
Which is really all they could ask for after a point A like that, you know? They also have almost 5 ultimates coming online against the 3 here from Karasuno. It's going to come down to whether or not we can combo, if Karasuno can combo a Gravitic Flux here, or just try and pull out ultimates.
Aspen's been building up these windows so quickly. She had one last fight, had one again, doesn't get any value, but building them up that fast is nuts. And now out comes the Dragon Blade, and Nitch is able to take Jikaru down. So early advantage over to Revival, but Asking able to take 2 out. Gravitic Flux grabbing multiple players for Revival, but they still have the advantage though in this fight. They still have more players and they can rotate around now, give up some space and wait for reinforcements.
This fight is so back and forth, and it's definitely, there's no clear winner just yet, even as these health pools rise and fall. It's a matter of who can take advantage of the positioning best as people come back, and which DPS can start popping off as well gets the kill on Provide.
Well, like you said, DPS popping off, Liar getting into it as well. Brigitte can still manage to find her way in and Aspire from that room, able to take out the retreating Jikaru, and now Revival sitting in a very good spot as far as this defense is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, great use of cover as they sat in the lower floor of the saloon there. It's looking like now we're going to get a quick pause. That's totally what I meant to say. Haha. Now we're just going to have to see, you know, Karasuno coming back on this fight. They're going to have to try and restabilize. They're down in ult a little bit, but they have an opportunity as they get back into this game. Luckily, that was pretty short.
Yeah.
But Revival now have the opportunity to set up on high ground, really get things cleanly set up in terms of their defense. So we'll see how Karasuno decide to push into this.
Aspen's built up another window, by the way. So another fight, another window. So,
I mean, do you even have to say it?
Right? She's been building them up so quickly. That one's not getting, they're not getting value, but they're forcing players to move around for Karasuno. Finzi now throwing the accretion rock out, extremely low HP was Nip, gets healed up nicely. Far though with the blade, has to get through all of the armor coming out from the rally, and it's not enough. Very good counter to the ultimate coming through from Karasuno by Revival.
Revival have been studying Philadelphia's VODs and understanding how to mitigate Genji Dragonblade. Far has not been getting value out of his last couple. Wub has definitely been coming out on top in terms of that engagement. And while you said Aspen's not getting a ton of like raw damage value off of these windows, ultimately the sheer volume of them forces Karasuno to really think hard about their positioning and their engagements. Because if you do it wrong, you'll lose a fight before it even starts, just off of sheer shield pressure and damage alone.
This is one of those fights where they have the opportunity. Nice halt, pulling players into the Gravitic Flux. A lot of damage coming out, but the Immortality Field is there. Provide, though, was one of the players that goes down while he was pulled into it, so advantage again for Revival.
Yeah, the follow-up on these Gravitic Fluxes from Salty has actually been amazing from Aspire. You're consistently seeing a pick either from a straight shot or a dynamite or anything like that. And if Aspire's not getting kills, Wub is more than happy to take over, as we see in this fight. Now they've got another window and a blade and a supercharger coming up versus Karasuno's support ults and a supercharger. This one could be even, but at the same time, another window from Aspen could actually shape this fight pretty intensely.
Especially, too, because they have to come into the window, but they have a window of their own, so they will use it here. Immortality Field out extremely early from both of these teams, though, and Provide is the one who falls first. Far quickly after, so Revival in control again, and Karasuno starting to grasp at straws. They use their rally here to put some armor on their tanks. They've got to try and clear off this high ground, but Wub, in the meantime, looking for the Dragon Blade, has to grab the armor, or the health pack, though, and then gets a little bit of help, but Asking and Jakaru combining for two, but it's Fire, two of his own, throws the Bob out, now looking for those tanks that are left alive, trying to stay alive himself as he's getting hit by the Bob on the other side from Asking. Salty, one of the few players left for Revival, and it's enough for them to get the win here. Provide will come back on the Lucio, out will come the Bob. And it's not going to be enough, though. This is going to be Revival with a very good defense coming through. Bob is kind of there, though, and hurting, though. Bart trying to not let this end here, but it's not enough. The pull-up by the Gravitic Flux is too much.
The old Sig 9, as they call it. I think a key point in that fight actually started towards the middle of it, and it was Asking using his coach gun to completely deny value and a kill off of Wub's Dragonblade. Also, Gustav came in to help and kind of clean up with that, even if he did end up getting caught out in that mega room. But if Wub got away with a kill onto Asking and then went off on his merry way to kill the other half of the team, you know, that fight could have either ended a little more quickly, or, you know, Karasuno could have even turned it around if things are starting to get real crazy. That Bob was doing a little work towards the end in terms of bringing down those really low health tanks. But the quick comebacks and everything on the respawn really sealed the deal for that. A really solid hold there for Revival. Now they're going to have to see if they can do them one better.
Full holds are very possible here on Route 66, too. So it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility that that's something we could end up seeing, but not likely, right? Not a likely thing. But Revival still have a win condition that they have to reach. So for Karasuno, they probably don't feel out of it yet. But in this mirror, what should I be looking for here when we have Karasuno on defense?
Look for the follow-up to the Gravitic Fluxes. As soon as you hear that weird line in Danish about the universe or whatever, really keep an eye on the DPS to see who's cleaning up, you know, getting a stray headshot or a dynamite kill or anything like that. Because that can really shape, I mean, obviously it's a pick, it shapes a fight tremendously. So you have to see if they can get value off of such an impactful ultimate, or if it can be canceled by an enemy accretion or just focusing down the enemy Sigma or something like that. It's a fight-shaping ultimate. It's this meta's Graviton Surge. So you really have to look at that as a central point as we get an early pick here moving forward.
A surge onto Finzi, who was really kind of by himself. There was one other player there with him, but not enough when you have the majority of Revival there to pounce onto you. You can still collapse onto players even with this sort of composition, even though it's a potent style comp. So works out really well, and they get a lot of space around Big Earls at the start. And now coming back in is Karasuno to try and stall, but it's already going well in favor of Revival as they just find themselves pick after pick.
I mean, great heads-up play at the start there to catch out Finzi. Someone definitely called that out, and they all agreed, let's go up there and take care of him first. That will definitely give us an advantage. After that, I mean, the man can float, but he's not that fast. So they definitely had the man advantage coming into the second half of that fight, and it was pretty easy to clean up without that extra shield, without that damage absorption. And now, I mean, we got 5 minutes to get not even halfway through Street Space. This is looking really good for Revival.
It really is. It's funny, some of the ults are actually, though, in favor of Karasuno, like Bar and Asking are very close to those DPS ultimates, but Aspen about to get the Amplification Matrix. So you have different ultimates that are going to be available here, at least in this next fight. Wub getting Bar extremely low. Reflex from either side, they'll keep him up, but Aspire with the shot onto Asking. Maybe I talked too much about Asking in the beginning, and Aspire is not happy with that. And then it's another shot, too! And then Wub with the triple hit on the Shuriken. Revival is going to coast to the win here on Route 66 and even this up 1-1.
Every Genji main watching this right now, I'm gonna say that was a good moment for you guys, but also please don't try it in my ranked games. Like, that was glorious, but the chance of you hitting a triple headshot against an ulting Genji flying over a bridge in the middle of Route 66, that's just one of those things that defies expectation. I was going to start talking about how, oh, you know, maybe Karasuno can disengage off the Ant Matrix and try and push in again and like get a solid hold off of their DPS ultimates. Aspire said no, and then Wub said absolutely not. And here we are, tied up at the halfway point.
It's wild that that's the way that it goes, too, because Karasuno looked really good on Control, and then Revival was very good here on Route 66. You know, we finally got to see the full mirror from both of these teams, and sure, Karasuno looked good at times, but Revival, I mean, the fact that they just breakneck pace win that map is pretty crazy.
Right, and it really came down to, you know, we're talking about all these amp matrices rather, that Aspen's been able to pull out, but that comes down to the team being able to take damage and disengage and get some healing without going down.
Correct.
That's
right.
what allowed all of these ultimates to come through so thick and fast, and that's what really gave Revival the advantage. I mean, the more Qs you have to press, the better.
Yes, it definitely helps, without a doubt. We'll see if that will be the continuing trend or if Karasuno can make this a comeback here in this next map and win this out. Again, it's 1-2, so whoever wins the next map will probably be our winner. So we'll see you in a few to see who can do that. We welcome you back to NA Contenders. It's LoBosco here alongside thibbledork, getting ready for our map number 3. Really good 2 maps that we've had, Thibble. It's tied up 1-1. Revival, though, looking really, really good on this main meta composition, that poke composition with the Genji and the Ashe. Like, wub. I mean, when you hit 3 headshot shurikens like that at the end, like, I mean, come on. Come on!
Hashtag just wub things, man. I mean, he's been doing this since the days. People that have followed Tier 2 for quite some time know that wub has been around and has kind of like ebbed and flowed as teams and players do. But in a Genji meta, I knew he was going to hit an upswing, and he is delivering. I am overjoyed to see him back on definitely what I would consider his absolute signature hero.
It's funny because Wub is 19, but it feels like he's been around for literally forever. He's been on teams since 2017. He played on Fainton Gaming originally, was one of the first players, I think, on Second Wind in their original form, played for Phase 2, Kungurna. You know, these are like endemic names as far as like early Overwatch. Mirage.
Kungurna flashbacks. Oh, Kungurna. Oh, those crazy guys. Yeah, Wub's definitely been around, but I mean, I'm happy to see all of these guys really finding their stride. Obviously, these 2 maps were very back and forth, just in terms of results. You know, it's a 2-0 on Oasis, and then, you know, a Streets phase hold on Route 66, which isn't super common.
Right.
I'm curious to see now as we get into Temple of Anubis, which version of each of these teams is going to show up.
And Temple of Anubis does add some wrinkles to things too, because like the May is something that can be prominent here. It has a place if that's what a team decides to do. Like there's some options that we could potentially see here if Karasuno maybe doesn't feel 100% on the mirror composition.
Right, and throwing those wrinkles out on Oasis is really, I think, what gave them the edge. Finzi getting value on the Diva, swapping over to the Pharah, which you almost never see these days in a hit-scan prominent meta, but they made it work, right? So I don't know if we'll see more of those specific wrinkles here, but if ever they were going to try something new, they should really try it here when their tournament lives are on the line. Or if they're confident on the meta comp here as they start their defense, then you know what, man? Give it your best shot. Maybe they just messed up on a couple key engages. They've talked about it during this quick little break we had, decided, you know what, we can patch those holes in the ship and keep sailing. You know, if they're confident to that degree, I'm gonna let them do it.
Yeah, and they get to play defense here first too, so you know they kind of get to set the pace a little bit as far as what the defense can do. I mean, as the offense, you're going to think you're the one setting the pace. Like I think that's always the funny thing about saying set the pace, because like both teams can technically say they're going to set the pace.
Yeah, it's really not necessarily the attackers in a game like Overwatch, you know? I mean, the defense can decide, hey, you don't get to speed it into us. Our poke is way too strong. We're not going to let you. We'll see how that goes now as we start looking to rotate around this left side.
Yeah, very common to see teams do that. Halt pulls them out for a second, but good healing keeps everybody alive, and you can see that a lot of damage was taken because of the percentage that Aspen is already at as far as the charge on this Baptiste. So now they push into the room where that health path is. A lot of damage coming out from the Dynamite. Have to put the Immortality Field on, though, to keep everybody alive. Salty getting extremely low, but they are being kept up. And now the aggression coming through from Karasuno, and it's too much as they push into that room and just win that fight. Everybody goes down.
I mean, so it was a great rotation of tanks to go take some damage, get some healing. Of course, Aspen has another window. We're talking about measurements of time via ability. We've got AKM blades and Aspen windows for sure. But the thing is that as soon as Aspen used that Immortality Field to give her a little more breathing room in terms of topping everybody off, as soon as it was down, that's the go button. Karasuno knew immediately they don't have it. There's nothing they're going to be able to do. Just walk at them and start clicking their heads. So easy fight win for them there, but now we've got some ultimates online. And this could look like a very different fight.
Yeah, so now they're going to throw out that first one, which is that window to put some damage through, but they've got a Bob in the room with them. Gravitic Bucks pulls them into the air, manages to get one and far with the blade, just 3!
All right, the blade was pretty, obviously. It did very well. I mean, the cleanup, the quick tactical crouch in case there was a Widow swap, obviously. But ultimately, I think that was almost an overcommitment there. You didn't really need the blade, I think, after getting those initial picks off the Gravitic Flux and the bomb. It was frankly a fairly expensive defense, and Revival didn't use a ton. They'll be close to a Flux, but probably not quite. Also very close to a Bob, a Blade, and a Rally to move in. So let's see if they can actually make use of those things before Karasuno move in off of the down Immortality.
Immortality Field's out extremely early, so that's go time for Wub on the Blade, already with one, swiping through another. Can't get a third, but that's okay because he did enough damage where they're going to be able to take this point and move on for Revival. I was thinking of my games earlier for some reason. I'm like, no, I'm not in EU anymore. This is NA.
Yeah, no. None of those teams over here. We're in Freedom Land. I say very ironically. Please don't get mad. I think that was a great patience from Wub on the Blade, waiting out some cooldowns before he activated it and getting great value, obviously, as a result. Now they're pushing in here with tank ults and another window, but no rally, no real like pop-off sort of ultimate unless the Flux can get great value. They're going to have to try and go for a longer fight to pull out cooldowns and burst abilities to survive this push safely and get the value on their first attack on second.
Second point of noob is so hard to take that way for any of these assault maps as it is. They've got the window again. Gravitic Flux is being used now pretty quickly, gets damage onto players. Now they get fluxed as well. Everybody alive except for Wub, who does go down to the Gravitic Flux. Trey's benefits defense is not looking too good for Revival, but Aspire is able to find another so they can at least try pushing onto the point, but it's still a tall task to try and win this fight, and now they've got to go through the amplification matrix, and it's not working out.
Their initial engagement seemed a little too fast and loose for me. I mean, you just start out right away with the window and the Flux without even waiting for any cooldowns really to come out, so that just meant Karasuno were perfectly well prepared for that. They come back around with a supercharger and an amp matrix, and their damage is just overwhelming, with no real cooldowns to help mitigate it. Now Revival are looking at just one ult that they probably want to save to combo with a Blade or a Bob, which means that it's gonna be, you're probably looking at another 90 seconds or so before they can get a real push again onto second.
And Far and Asking are okay with that because they've got ultimates that can keep them at bay. The Bob can really do a lot in a situation like this. Salty right now just trying to build up some shield on this Sigma. Not getting a whole lot yet. Now the Blade coming out from Far. Not getting a lot of value though. He got forced away. I think it was a halt that only thing. Jakaru coming on. And now they've got to make a decision here for Karasuno. They're kind of just waiting things out.
They're working to build ultimates here. They want to get the Primal and the Nano. They also already have the Bob. But at the same time, you know, Aspen obviously has an amplification matrix because it's like a 10-second cooldown for her. So, oh man, now everything's popping off. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, throw out the Bob almost immediately, able to take care of the Immortality field that Aspen threw down. And Aspen, he'll be the first one to fall, the target of the dive. So we welcome you back here on Elo Health. Apparently a little bit of power outage happening, but everything's okay. We have Revival able to cap in overtime, and now Asking popping off with the rest of Karasuno to take this first point, and they're going to have a big time thing to attack point B with.
Some great cleanup there from Asking, but really it was the engagement off of the Winston and the Nano Boost really making sure that some space could be created as they moved on to that first point. Now they're walking forward. Jakaru didn't even use his Primal, and they have a Blade, Rally, and another Nano Boost. So you have a great initial engagement opportunity here. Let's see if this Nano Blade gets value.
Oh, it gets stunned though by the flashbang. Bart can't do anything, got pulled into the Gravitic Flux, and Wub's Blade was better, able to get 2 kills with it, and it's going to be Revival winning this first defensive fight. A lot of ultimates expended though.
Definitely an expensive fight for sure, but there's a lot of time here. You know, it's not like Karasuno is really hurting on ultimate generation time, and ultimately I think, like, you know, if you come into extra rounds and the enemy team has 4.5 minutes on the clock, you're in trouble. So they really they have to commit a lot to keep their fight safe. An initial pick onto Jakaru here, thanks to that halt, actually negates almost an entire fight. So now they have a supercharger, Deadeye, and of course another window. I don't even think I need to say it at this point. But you've got tank ultimates coming online from Karasuno, a Bob, and a Rally. This is, again, another strong engagement opportunity. They just have to not get picked out and actually get to keep some of their time bake advantage coming into the second point.
We're going on that right side too for Karasuno, looking for that jump in, throw down the bubble to split players off, have to use the Primal Rage, trying to displace players. Some getting extremely low, but the self-destruct coming through from Finzi into the perfect area, and now Karasuno can move on to the point and take control.
Ooh, great animate coming in onto Salty, really forces him back. And in general, so many zoning tools as this second point is already taken. There was literally no way for Revival to even try and step back onto that point. You had to worry about the self-destruct. You had to worry about your Sigma being purpled. You had to worry about all this front-loaded cleave damage from a Winston with a nano boost and all those things. You know, they threw out their cooldowns early thinking they could poke down someone quick enough that they could get value out of that. But the fight lasted a little too long. Karasuno got too much value off of that initial engagement, and it was way too easy for them to just zone them off the point and cap with over 3.5 minutes left in the bank. Revival here will be lucky for a draw, but really it's looking a little grim.
3 minutes and 34 seconds. We know that they had a very fast first take on this point for Karasuno. They did have a different composition that they were running here, though. They are going to throw a Spire on to the McCree. They had the Echo that they were using before.
I like this move. I think they probably weren't expecting the dive swap again that we saw on Control and then saw here on first point. So now we're looking at, oh goodness, I like the McCree. No, I like the McCree here. Now that I think about it a little more, it's going to keep the dive tanks honest, I suppose, is the point I've been trying to get to here. Is just this, the flashbang really says, hey man, you can try and come up here and build ultimates, but every 7 or 8 seconds, I'm gonna be able to tell you to go away. And if we can burn you down in that time or force an immortality field or something, so much the better.
Asking showing us Widowmaker here at the beginning. I don't know if Asking's going to stay on this or not. I think Owen just was looking for that early pick. I wouldn't mind seeing some Widow, but I understand. So we don't get it, but you do have the McCree, like you said, and we really haven't seen the engagement happen yet, so we don't know how this interaction is going to work on this second point. Sort of baiting them down onto the low ground. Wub is able to take Far out immediately, but Jakaru able to get so much cleave out already to the halfway point for that ultimate. So the Primal Rage already getting close, but Jakaru getting sniped by Aspire.
I mean, great ult build there. Obviously, they were content to kind of still move forward despite the early pick and just try and build ultimates before having to back away. But Aspire was, like I said, definitely keeping them honest, making sure that he could not let Jakaru just kind of run off and get some extra healing and build up those ultimates. A great first defense. It didn't take too long, but also got plenty of ultimates for either side.
Good boot to send away the Winston so you don't get that cleave coming in. And Jakaru, really weak, has to jump pack away. Does manage to do so successfully. But this defense, they're able to get Finzi out of mech and then get the elimination too. So they're slowly building up to very important ultimates that they can use to make this map a draw.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at 4 ultimates, and by the time they use them, the Rally and the Supercharger should be close to online. 2 minutes here means if they're smart about it, they could ration these ults very effectively, and we could actually be looking at a draw. That said, Karasuno are coming up on 3 or 4 of their own and could be looking to use them soon.
Well, they go in with the jump again for Jakaru, getting extremely low. They haven't used the nano boost yet, so that is still available. They might be saving it, though, for Far, who's trying to build up to that Dragon Blade. Bob going to be coming out, forced back. They've been doing a good job kiting back some of these ultimates, and some of these players halt into the Gravitic Flux. So many players get caught, and it finds pay dirt. Salty, though, a little bit too far forward, so a little bit of a weakening happening here to the defense, losing out on that Sigma. It's going to take him some time to get back.
Well, I mean, good enough for him as he swaps over to the Diva, because Finzi is still stuck in Baby Diva form, at least for another couple seconds. So he's probably got enough time to come back, though they are going to try for a really quick re-engage as he hops back in his mech. Salty, though, swapping onto the Diva means he should be able to get back in time. It's just a matter of seeing now if this Deadeye can get anything done.
It's all about all these ultimates that are going to come out. Already one down. Improvise Mark trying to swipe through, but he gets stuck dead in his trap. Karasuno losing important members to try and hold on to this attack. Finzi getting popped out of mech 2 at the end, and they're going to be able to stall Finzi for so long.
Ooh, this one's going to be rough. Let's just kind of... Oh, no, there he goes. Okay, he saw that his team was coming back and just took him out. I mean, good on Karasuno here to maintain 4 ultimates, you know, holding their discipline strong. The Deadeye didn't get a ton, but ultimately the disengage off that the Deadeye gave them space for. Oh god, asking just doesn't exist anymore. Rest in peace, buddy. Off of that disengage, it gave them just enough space now to set up comfortably for this next fight as the bomb, the primal, and the window all come out.
They lose so much by not having Asking or the Bob, though. They're going to Primal Rage with Winston and then throw the Nano Boost on. Wub, in the meantime, though, finds 2 players in the back line, and they can't even get to the point. It's going to be a draw. We don't find our winner on Temple of Anubis.
I mean, I don't want to say I called it, but I kind of called it. An effective rationing of ultimates there is really what it took. Every fight, they had at least 1 or 2 answers to anything Karasuno were going to be able to throw at them. The Primal did its best in terms of like displacement and everything. Karasuno had the tools, but the disengage off of that displacement kept them from getting any value off of it, and they always had an answer to keep Karasuno on the back foot as they tried and tried and tried to engage. Whether it was a pick, a whip shot, or some other boop or CC off of the initial jump from Jkaru, there was always an answer, and they played that so well. They've definitely practiced that before, and it shows.
It was fun. It was interesting to see that Karasuno just stuck with that dive composition the entire time too. Like you don't have a lot of time with the time bank they had, but they still had what, 3.5 minutes, so you can try for 1.5 minutes or so before you can make a swap.
I mean, I think by the time they really got into the ult phases, they were confident enough, right? Every time they were like, okay, well, we have these ults. We could maybe use these in this way and get some value off of that. We only need a tick anyways. Let's just go for it. But every time there was that answer. Every time Jkaru would get caught out or the engagement would go sour off of a boop or something like that. And they would say, okay, we got to back up, give that 20 or 30 seconds. We still got time. And then by the time you do that, you know, you've got a minute left and then it's far too late anyways. So, you know, really well handled by Revival there, just to know that like, okay, these guys are going to try and come in this way with these tools. How can we counter that? You know, Aspen's going to have a window, you know, every 10 seconds. Can we use that to zone them out? Can we use a whip shot to make sure Jkaru doesn't get his ult as quickly as he would like and combo that with a nano boost or something, you know?
It was, you know, hubris, I guess, it can be a good thing if you're really good with the comp, but we can see that it also doesn't pay off, right? So the next map though is Blizzard World. So I mean, it's another map with a lot of like this it feels like Route 66 as far as similarities of how the map is and just geometry wise.
I mean, the thing is that I would say that's true for Streets phase and Last, but that initial engagement point where you've got this huge long sightline all the way through, you know, the statue of Taralian over to whatever the heck the frickin' first point is called. It's like a barn, basically. It's such a great sightline for a Widowmaker to try and cause some trouble, or an Ashe to hop up on the high ground and set up with a shield or something like that. We could see a lot of different compositional wrinkles here, certainly. I think at least on this first point. But this is also an opportunity for Karasuno to decide, hey, let's just play the meta. I don't know, let's try and play that thing that works, because it's obvious that Revival have figured out the answer to that composition that first made its appearance on Oasis.
The other thing too, as far as this, I'm thinking, you know, I'm thinking about Asking's Widowmaker. Like that's what's been in my mind now because you mentioned the Widowmaker. Like,
when are we not thinking of Asking's Widowmaker? Honestly, it's
good question. It is. It's super good, but we're not gonna get it. We're gonna get mirror compositions here is what we're going to get, thibbledork. And the last time we saw a mirror come through, it did favor Revival.
It did. Yeah, it definitely did. Route 66 was a convincing showing of their strength in the mirror. That said, though, this, more than Route 66, it's much harder to catch out a Sigma that's out of position too far forward on a map like Blizzard World than it would be on Route 66. They got very lucky with that engagement, I would say, on their attack as they were pushing, you know, just to halfway through Streets phase. We're going to have to see if they can make those decisive engagements again, or if Karasuno are going to be able to utilize this high ground and the cover just behind them to disengage onto the point and otherwise stay safe from a team that will not hesitate to totally take your head off.
And you can see Revival going into that underpassage on the left side to, well, right side is what we're looking at right now, left for them. So to move on the other side of the statue and really start to try to avoid that, but doing asking things gets the initial pick, and now you got to back away if you're Revival.
I mean, at the very least, you know, it's easy enough for Revival to say, oh, okay, we got picked. We're going to back up over here, and there's no way they're going to try and come this far forward, so we should be pretty safe and just wait it out. It's a quick enough re-engage. You're just waiting for the DPS to come back, and then you can get right back into it. That said, some early ult advantages growing right now. Far is 20% ahead in his Dragon Blade, and Jkaru's a little ahead on his Supercharger as well. So if you're looking to utilize that Super Blade combo or Bongo Blade, whatever the heck you want to call it, that could be an early advantage for them as this fight gets underway.
They at least dislodge Karasuno from the high ground. A lot of players extremely low too. They'll be able to get healed back up, but Immortality Field is out. So that's an advantage over for Revival. Amplification Matrix gets thrown down too. You've got to try and approach somehow if you are Karasuno, but Revival in control and Aspire manages to get the head of Asking, the only part visible too, and the blade gets poach gunned away. Won't get any value either. So Karasuno kiting away from those dangerous ultimates. Oh, but Aspen got pulled in by the halt. So they lose out on a lot of healing, but they split off Karasuno, but it ends up backfiring.
I mean, I have no idea where Aspen was there. I would say that blade from far was optimistic, but I can't say it's not working now. At least as a zoning tool, you know, give him enough time to find Aspen out of position and turn that fight back around, because it was looking pretty grim. I wasn't a fan of it, like I said, but, you know, he's back to 55%. We're looking at a Bob, a Rally, a Flux, and a Supercharger coming up from Karasuno, and they're definitely ahead in the ult economy now as well. So this could be a bit more of an extension of a hold. That said, Revival only need one tick to cap this first point and get the cart rolling.
So they've done at least a lot of the work that they needed to do. Won't be a full hold at the very least here on Blizzard Worlds. You do manage to get those 2 ticks, but you can still at least hold them from getting that cart activated. Glub's blades, though, have been pretty timely. Look to see if he can get another one here. Aspire will get revenge on to Asking. Out comes the play. Nice ult into it, too. Doesn't matter about the rally when you've got that much damage coming through. And Revival nicely take his points.
Oh yeah, I mean, clean initial pick, clean it with the Dragon Blade. The Bob seems a little much, but you know, I like the guy, he can stay. We've got the point going now, and 3.5 minutes could snowball into something much more if they take advantage of this high ground.
Gotta move the cart too. I think it's somebody went to finally move it.
Really? Someone tell my team that in my rankings. I don't know if they've heard that one.
I'm sorry. I feel your pain. I do. I really do. It was Aspen was the one who started to move the cart. So they at least get this cart rolling, but that high ground advantage now is going to be coming up for Karasuno.
Yes, we're going to have to see if they can take advantage of getting tons of range on the Supercharger, perhaps, or avoiding this Gravitic Flux, it looks like.
Oh, they don't avoid it at all. And Aspire gets the better of Asking again in this Ashe v Ashe fight, and Revival's going to get this cart rolling.
Yeah, I mean, clean as you like, you know? I mean, the cart pretty much just keeps moving. It's only been about 50 seconds since the thing unlocked in the first place, and they're already halfway through streets. But the poke has to be respected. Karasuno are backing up, but that does not mean that they are toothless. But we'll see if they can actually contest 2.3 meters. Man, they're coming close.
Oh, nice blade from Bars, able to get Aspire at the beginning. Not enough follow-up to try and even it out for Revival. They're going to have to try and back away.
Yeah, but I mean, they take that. They've got 2 minutes to come back as this cleanup is gnarly. Oh my god. These guys are pretty good at the video game, man.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a treat. It's a treat. I think people, you know, they might see trials and think like, oh, these are all going to be clown fiestas, but man, we are eating good today in terms of cleanup on these fights. Tons of great headshots coming out, great high ground control coming out here from Karasuno again. Not a ton of bolts though. They're gonna have to use their cooldowns effectively to mitigate Wub's Dragon Blade and the Bob and the window, of course, the thing I never have to say but say anyways.
Right, because it's been up so many times for both.
Literally every time.
Yeah, Aspen's built some fast. Clearly focuses very hard on the healing, keeps her team healed up well, and then throws down the amplification matrix to help get those eliminations. That Aspire can shoot through that window to make that happen. So another shot too there at the end before the Bob comes out, and Bob doing plenty this time. Unfortunately for Karasuno, asking Bob, not doing a whole heck of a lot, but he can't.
No, I mean, wow.
You gotta love that combo.
I almost wonder if asking swaps or something off of that, but I think he was just trying to buy some time. You know, the time bank is not huge, but it's certainly considerable coming into this last point, especially now that they're snowballing this so effectively.
This is a hard map to finish, too. Even to get to this point can be extremely difficult. So Revival, putting themselves in a good position, they have pushed up pretty far here, too, to make sure that their next engage isn't going to happen around either of those corners where they don't want it to. So the cart now getting stopped, at least for the moment. They finally start moving it again. But again, they are in a really good spot.
The similarity between these guys and my ranked teammates. That payload, man, it's got to keep moving. I'm curious to see almost exactly that. The flux coming in to try and cancel out an engagement. And with cleanup like that, it's hard to say no.
Immortality field was so early, too.
Yeah, they had a window for sure, but that flux did a lot of work. And now they hold on a couple. Well, they're building up closer to a couple ults after just using that flux, which I think overall was a really good fight for them. The only drawback being that Revival didn't use anything and are approaching 6 ultimates, which can either be really good or really bad depending on who you use.
Yeah, you get overconfident sometimes. Immortality field out, though. Everybody will be able to stay alive through this Gravitic Flux, but they are extremely low. They have to back up as a result. Supercharger is going to be used in response. Bob throwing those players up into the sky, and now what will use the Dragon Blade. They had won this fight already, so maybe a little overcommittal from Revival.
Yeah, but I think at that point, I imagine they were just getting a little frustrated. It's like, hey, can we actually play the game, please? Can we have a fight, a single fight, where we get to like press all our buttons and click our mouse and things like that? And boy, did they. Boy, howdy. You know, Karasuno said, you know, I guess. And they said, no, we're doing it. You're dead. Now we're already almost pushing to the last point.
So it's working out so far, but Bar with the initial pick and Fincy following in behind. Revival only with 23 seconds left. They've got to regroup now if they want to have a chance to stay together.
Salty needs to die or run off the edge, man. I don't know what he's doing, but with 15 seconds left and 0.85 meters to push, they're going to have to hope that someone quick can get onto this point. Aspire swapping to the Widowmaker, hoping for a last-minute pick or something as Salty goes down so late.
Oh no, and Wub was your best chance to get to the cart. You do have the ball to come on, though, for Mitch at least. So you do at least have that, but Revival not going to be able to regroup as a full 6 to have a chance in this fight. Gravitic Flux pulling players away. Somebody has to get a touch on. They barely do. Aspire does manage to get one pick, but too many players are falling for Revival. They can't deal with the Blade. They can't deal with the Bob. And just short of that final point, Karasuno will stop Revival.
I mean, effectively, they walked into that half down already. Salty was so staggered out, the initial pick onto Web, there was no way they were going to get an even fight out of that. They had to hope and pray that Nietzsche pulled out a crazy pick, or Aspire came back and got something crazy, or Aspen had another window like she always does and did something. But ultimately that was way too big of an advantage for Karasuno for Revival to pull anything out there on that last point. Now there is a clear win condition. We are not getting a map 5, which
probably...
shut your mouth. I don't want to hear it. If that happens, I will eat something I'm probably not supposed to. That's how those bets work, right? No.
Do a shoey or something, you know, dude. You know, you can always do that, right?
I've had my shoes for way too long to drink anything out of them, dude. I want to live to see 25. I pray that this is not a draw. Yeah, you know, I mean, quarter century. It's something to celebrate and not die of whatever poison is in the bottom of my shoes. Ugh.
But then you're closer to being a boomer like me and get to 30, so...
I really don't want to think about that right now. I want to think about how we're not going to map 5, and I want to think about how we're seeing... well, that's a Symmetron attack. That's just going to be a teleport.
Yeah.
We're seeing more of the mirror then, I can only assume. And while Revival has looked quite strong on that, they're they've got their work cut out for them. They've got a long way to go on this map, and there is no guarantee that they get as far as they need to on a map like Blizzard.
Especially with how strong the high grounds on Street Space and of course here on this first point are. It's all about how they decide to tackle it. Doing pretty good themselves when they were on defense. See if they can stop the defense of Revival here. Much quicker to get off Revival from the high ground than it took for Karasuno to get off the high ground on their defense. So already at least starting a little bit better on their attack. But now they have to rotate over to the point. Nice dynamite coming through from asking if those players hiding in that cubbyhole. And now they can start to move forward. Players getting extremely low. Immortality Field is out from Aspen, and Liar is the first to fall. Salty quickly after, and this is a good start for Karasuno.
Poor Asking, as Aspire types lol in chat. Both of them basically were looking at each other, firing a shot, reloading a shot, shooting it, missing, repeat. Bless their hearts. They were both trying their best. I don't think either of them got the other. They both got taken out by other people on the team. I mean, a great first push by Karasuno. You can't ask for much more. Revival had a healthy respect, disengaged cleanly, but ultimately there was too much front-loaded damage. Like you said, the dynamite getting immense value as far goes down. That was a great combo, actually, from the tanks to set up that pick.
Speaking of value, right? That's one way to get it at the beginning. And stopping this card early on at this choke point is major for a defense. It becomes so much harder to attack because you get that extra defense later on.
Yeah, I mean, that I actually want to shout out Niche there because that was insane. He got effectively set up 2 picks off of 2 halts. You know, I mean, like, people complain like, oh, it's basically a mini Graviton Surge. You have an ultimate in your pocket. No fair. I hate this horse. But, like, you can't deny the value that just got there.
Yeah, and now you get the Bob out. Not going to get immense value, but you don't let the Bob on the other side do anything. But out comes the Graphitic Flux, and the Graphitic Fluxes from Finzi have been massive on this map.
Oh, hugely. They're getting almost 2 or 3 people almost every time. Strong confirms coming in from asking. You know, I mean, they're clearly coordinating that really well. And they're basically telling Revival, like, yeah, you might be getting value off of your CC cooldowns, but we can do that too. Please watch. Now they have 4 minutes pushing through second phase here with only... Or actually, Revival have a good war chest here to come in and counter this against the Supercharger and the Dragon Blade from Karasuno. So let's see if they can... Well, they have to try and be efficient with what they've got here to make this hold work. That was another great setup from Niche. Oh my goodness.
Halt's still one of the strongest abilities in the game. There's no doubt about that. Here comes the Halt pulling players in for the Blade from Wub. Not too much yet. Actually gets countered by Chikaru. So now you've lost your Genji. The Blade from Bard didn't do a whole heck of a lot either, though. But it's a 6v5, evened up to a 5v5. What's the bigger loss? And now both tanks are gone. They have to back away for Karasuno. And this is the worst place for this cart to get stopped.
Man, after a Blade like that, we might want to start calling him Farhan, because that Blade did not get anything. Bless has already tried, but I just don't think he could find anybody, and by the time he did, they were already way too far away, and there was far too much CC. So that's a GG go next for him.
Oh no!
Oh,
I thought they were gonna give it up.
Good eye. That would have been disastrous. Oh my goodness. No, they prevent the C9. My animation cards will have to wait another day. And now we have a Bob and a Window coming in as engagement tools as Karasuno take this Nexus experience high ground.
Gotta always be around the pylon. That's what gives you power if you're Protoss. So, you know, that's what they're doing right now, but they're throwing Bob out onto the cart, so now you have to contest the cart if you are Revival. And they quickly take care of the Bob, though. Good job by Revival to at least handle that initial pressure, but they do have players taking some dynamite damage from asking. This fight kind of just being elongated right now because of the distance between both these teams. Halt calls Bob and won't allow him to engage onto those players, but still get the damage onto JKR to force out the Immortality Field. And now you are at a disadvantage if you are Karasuno, and they're losing this fight too, and we're down to a minute 48.
Karasuno took a very standard engagement in that that doorway. I think we've seen that engagement, 1,000 times at this point in this meta. Walk through door, press window, try and shoot through it. But Revival made such great use of cover there in their situation, just backing up a little bit, using those signs to their advantage. Committed some ultimates to make sure they stayed alive, some cooldowns to make sure they stayed alive, but most importantly, did not give up their high ground position, did not give up the cart. Now we're looking at 1 minute and 20 seconds, and Karasuno are looking to mix it up, but they're getting so much so much poke damage coming through from the Dynamite and Ash's Viper in general. There's almost no way that they can engage from such an open space.
And now the ultimates start to tick up for both teams, too. So you had both teams not really with anything. We're going to get a ton of ults in this last fight.
10. It's looking like. Superchargers are very even, but I don't know if they'll come up in this fight for either team. That said, they've surprised me before. But with almost 5 other ults online for both teams, we're going to have to see. It's just a battle of Qs here.
And here comes the first one. The Gravitic Flux will force out the Immortality Field at the beginning. You have the Amplification Matrix used on either side. Onto the low ground goes Karasuno, trying to halt players off. Accretion Rock to stop the ultimate from Finzi. Huge from Salty on that one, but Wub will go down to the Dragon Blade, so you lose out on the blade that you had. But this isn't over yet. Karasuno still with players alive. Same for Revival. And Salty has been doing work on the low ground, but Aspen gets caught out towards the end. Wub back in the fight. Has the Dragon Blade. Have to get the Immortality Field, though. Is Wub have enough in the tank? Not quite. And Karasuno should be able to keep this going, but they're going to use Rally. They're still coming in. It's a 2v2. Players starting to come back from either side. Use of the Rally, keeping the players up, and Liar will get the first kill onto Gustav. In comes the Wrecking Ball. Finzi getting extremely low, not able to get healed up in time. Revival have control, throw the Supercharger down. It's only Jakarta left alive to try and stall it out, and it will be Revival beating Karasuno in a hard-fought match to get themselves up near the top.
I mean, that is so key for Revival's chances to get into Contenders as we move through this week of trials, right? Only the top 2 advance. You need every win you can get. Karasuno, we're looking unstoppable, or at the very least, very strong with their 2-0 scoreline. But it's clear, Revival is catching their stride. They are not a team to underestimate. They are intensely capable, especially in this meta, as we've seen. In the mirror, they clearly look stronger. The clutches overall, the disengages, the getting value out of their ultimates and canceling enemy ultimates, they were really pulling it all together there towards the end of that fight. And I mean, coming back on the Lucio and the Wrecking Ball and just getting tons of value and keeping their composure long enough to just win that out when otherwise you might have tried to disengage and hold in the last point or something to that effect, right? I think it was great composure from Revival to bring that back after a bit of a stomp on Oasis and put together 2 very convincing defenses off the back of great ultimate coordination, great engagement coordination and positioning, and some strong pop-offs on almost every front. I mean, the huge windows, the Hulk combos, the pop-offs from the Ashe and the Genji, the great blades and everything like that. You really couldn't ask for more from a performance today. I think Revival walk away very happy.
They have to. They've evened out their score as far as maps. And for Group A, the way that it's looking right now, Odyssey is now your top team, your number 1 spot. So Karasuno has actually dropped, not just below second, but they've dropped into third because Scion Esports has a +3 to their map differential. So Karasuno and Revival now are going to be fighting out the rest of the way. So the next 2 days are going to be so important for both of those teams to have a chance. This race between Scion, Karasuno, and Revival is going to be one to watch really close.
Right, and we have to see how Odyssey's games shake out too, because I mean, there's just as much of a chance that some other team comes up and surprises them, like Revival just did to Karasuno. Though they do play Hype Unit today, who are kind of lower in the standings. But hey, if the Summer Showdown, did they?
Yeah, they 2-0. So
I'm not keeping track that well, I suppose. I was going to make a plithy comment about how upsets happen every day. Look at the Summer Showdown, but not today. Not today, I suppose. We'll save that one for later.
Yeah, it was a very good day, though, for Group A. So you have Scion getting the 2-0 win over Saints. Odyssey got the 2-0 win over Height. We had the best game. That's what happens
Oh
sometimes
yeah,
when
I
we
mean,
do the broadcast, right? So
it's what we're owed. It's in our contracts.
exactly. So,
Did you not read that part? We always get the best games.
I try to not read the script ahead of time because I want to be surprised.
True. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
So, but it was fun today, Thibbledork. I mean, any final thoughts?
I'm very pleased with the game we saw today. I think a back and forth like that is always the best Overwatch you can get, right? Nobody wants to
Mhm.
see a stomp unless you're a really big fan of that particular team, I suppose. But over here, we're impartial. We just want to see good Overwatch and as much of it as possible. And while we didn't get a map 5 or anything crazy like that, no draws on hybrid. It was still just a fantastic game. I mean, so many great elements there to really analyze and look over. You're watching these teams hit their stride and kind of figure out what they need to be doing in this meta and against these opponents and everything to really give us some fantastic games just in time to start getting into contenders.
So what we're saying is just because you watch today doesn't mean you should stop, because tomorrow and the
Oh yeah,
next day going to be some awesome games as well to finish out and find out who will win those final two spots. You have the group A and the group B. So be sure to watch all of that. But that's going to do it here for us. Thanks again for watching. Thanks, of course, to our production staff behind the scenes, Direboyd, Evie, everybody else behind that makes this possible. And of course, thanks to my partner, Thibbledork, and thank you for watching. But that'll do it here for us. See you next time.
support tier 2.